Good morning, everyone. Let's call to order the Arizona State Parks Board for the December 18, 2025. Here it is, just after 10 a.m. For the pledge of, or let's do call to order first. That's not what I just did. The Pledge of Allegiance. Member Palmberg will lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And where I was going was to the member roll call.
John Sefton.
Present.
Dale Larson.
Here.
Jeff Buchanan.
Here.
Sarah King.
Here.
Terry Palmberg.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Good, thank you. Move into our agenda items. Item 1, consideration of action to approve the minutes of the October 16th board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, Terry Palmberg, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 2, consideration of the consent agenda. We do have one item that has been requested to be removed.
Mr. Chair Jeff Buchanan, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 2C. I do have some questions about that.
Shall we move into question 2C prior to voting? Do we have a staff discussion along that line, or do we wish to propose questions first?
Well, we could approve all the others unless,
Okay.
if everybody's okay with that,
And then discuss? Okay. So we'll take a motion to approve as, or the motion is to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve all of the consent items except for 2C. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes with the exception of 2C. And Mr. Buchanan, you have questions?
Yes, sir. The concern that I have, of course, in the items we got, we didn't get a tremendous amount of detail. And the specific question is about approving, modifying, or denying funding for motorized grant applications for 2026. And we have a series of different grants with a request and staff recommendation. I had some questions about AZ4WDA and in particular Arizona Office of Outdoor Recreation. And so let me explain my concern about off-highway vehicle use in general and then the questions about the education. So my own observations of off-highway vehicle use are that I see a lot of abuses. Rarely do I see abuses when it is somebody operating an OHV as a tool. So the example is a rancher or a hunter that is using it as a means to an end. I rarely see abuses. And I see a lot of these because I'm a ranch liaison for our sheriff, and you guys I think know that. Where I see more abuses is when the point of the OHV is the end, not the means. It's all about just focused on the recreation. Abuses I see is large gatherings. I mean, up to 100 OHVs, driving on, making their own trails, cutting new trails, and so having a significant impact on the environment. Speeding, trash, even shooting fireworks in the summertime, out in the national forest, all these kinds of things. And I know that Parks has been a significant member of it had been a council set up, and it's still ongoing, participating in criticality of trying to shape behavior for OHV operators. Obviously, we do a lot when it comes to maintaining and sometimes even creating new OHV trails, signage, law enforcement, all of those kinds of things. My question is, the advertising meant for education about safe operation, operating in accordance with laws and those kinds of things, or is it trying to advertise to get more operators? Because my opinion is the last thing we need is advertising for more operators. What we need is education of law so that they operate it in accordance with our laws and safety, respect for the environment, much as we saw from that group out of Sedona last year. So anyway, that's really my question. And so back to staff, I'd like to know what you know about this.
Yeah,
Michelle?
Mr. Chair, Member Buchanan, yes, it is exactly what you want. It's education and information. It will also help us to drive visitors to underutilized trails and, kind of move them away from overutilized trails. You'll be able to see the results of this advertising campaign, which is really more of an information and education campaign. We'll be able to see where trail usage is high, we'll be able to see where it's lower, kind of move people around, but more importantly, just provide them with that initial, before they get out there, education and information about how to be responsible on the trails, how to follow all the laws and the rules.
Kids wearing helmets.
Kids wearing helmets was actually brought up in the OFAG meeting, so yes, those are all things that we'll do. It'll all be designed in-house, so we can use, the appropriate images, the messaging, everything that we want to encourage that responsible use.
Right, and so that scratches my itch and answers my question.
Excellent. In that same conversation with OHV now, and I know it probably came up through a lot of the master planning that we've done through state parks, but I know a lot of the municipalities are also dealing with public education around e-bike use. So that too is kind of the same topic when we start talking about wearing helmets and speed limits and not cutting new trails. So that's really important. I think there could be a good, thread throughout recreational vehicle use, right down to the use of e-bikes and others as well. So.
And I would commend that if you haven't, consider taking the course that Game and Fish has set up as part of the mandatory law on OHV education. It is worthwhile, and there's some good things in there for all.
Mr.
So-
Chairman?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No. If there is a vote on item 2C, I will need to recuse myself from any discussion or voting and abstain from that since I have a conflict of interest with respect to the grant on the Arizona Office of Outdoor Recreation.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Terry.
Terry Palmberg, I would like to move approval of the 2026 motorized grant applications. There are 6 submissions, and I move approval of those submissions
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of item 2C. With that, should we do a roll call vote?
John Sefton,
Yes.
Dana Larson,
Abstain?
thank you, Jeff Buchanan,
Yes.
Terry Palmberg,
Aye.
Sarah King.
Aye.
Very good. Motion passes with 1 abstention. Go all the way to item number 3.
Perfect.
The OHV Mitigation Grants Working Group. The state OHV coordinator will provide the board an overview of the group's efforts to improve motorized trail safety. Presenter Matt Eberhardt.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Very timely question, Member Buchanan. So I'm here to discuss with you a mechanism that we have been working on for a number of months. We're calling it an Off-Highway Vehicle Mitigation Grants Working Group. Back in 2017, the Arizona State Parks Board gave our team, our work unit, the Grants and Trails team, the authorization to award up to $100,000 for mitigation, maintenance, vandalism, repairs, for up to $100,000. Part of what we're going to be discussing in the next agenda item is an increase to that authority for us to move forward with issuing grants at a higher dollar value as trail maintenance has become more expensive. However, this group specifically, we met with Senator Dunn's office earlier this year, specifically speaking with ranchers regarding their concerns and issues surrounding off-highway vehicle recreation and the negative impacts it has had on their properties, on Forest Service properties, on BLM properties. There's not really many folks that haven't been in some way or another, unfortunately, negatively impacted by off-highway vehicle recreation. So, in meeting with Senator Dunn's office, in continuing conversations with the number of law enforcement agencies across the state, ongoing conversations with the Game and Fish Department, their law enforcement folks, as well as their education and outreach specialists, we're working to have this mitigation group help us in determining and identifying a path forward to getting trails safer for users. And so that group, we have a myriad of folks that we've talked about. Director Broscheid and Deputy Director Weber and I have discussed at length with my supervisor, trying to basically build the A-team of folks that would evaluate trail needs throughout the state, to then come to us and say, hey, we're going to submit an application for A, B, or C trail, and hopefully those projects will come in within that threshold so that we can expedite the spending to get those trails maintained in a quicker fashion than having to go through OFAG, AORC, and then the board, which is at this point being done quarterly. So the main focus in that group, you can see the purpose here, is to just primarily create safer trails for users. So they'll get together. We're planning to have their first meeting in January. I believe we're planning to have an email go out from Director Broscheid to the proposed members of that group that we've identified, and in the hopes that we can get them together in January to start this process of evaluating trails, where the highest needs are, how do we determine the highest needs. And so this, I suspect, will be an ongoing agenda item to provide updates to you as to where that group is, what they're doing, much like we've done with that state off-highway vehicle legislative committee that Director Broscheid serves on. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this specific working group, but again, their primary focus is going to be making trails safer.
Mr. Chairman. Dale Larson. Bob, how does this relate then to the legislative committee that you are on? Is this something the committee is acknowledging? Was this one of their recommendations? Are you going to be reporting to them as well? I know this is such a sensitive environmental issue as well as everything else. I just wouldn't want us to be the recipient of something that the governor has set up the committee that you are on to really look at this in a very sensitive way. So just curious how the two are going to mesh.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Member Larson, very similar. It's sort of a sub-working group. The issue came up, you mentioned with Sedona. That was a really big issue with the landowners that were up there, and so our team went up there and talked about it. So Senator Dunn really just deferred to our agency after some coaxing, I think, to let them know we can do this. We need to pull the right people on the table. Let's talk about the issues, and let's talk about what our board's responsibilities, capabilities are underneath the grant program. Now, like Matt said, we really haven't set up sort of how encompassing this could be, how broad it can be, who can apply. Then you throw in landowners, land management agencies, state and federal, you have permittees, private landowner mixes, it gets more complicated. And what we wanted to do before we started really opening this up to applications, we wanted to make sure, one, people were educated on what the fund is for, what we're trying to do, what the law says we can do. And then if we wanted to develop grant criteria within that, we would definitely love this feedback. And then we could bring it to you all for approval up through the other committees. So it's sort of a subgroup. I think Senator sanctions it. He's really thrilled about it. In fact, a couple weeks ago, he led a call. We had all the land management agencies on a phone call, and he was really assessing, is this something you're going to be part of? Is this something you're going to be working with? Particularly if you've got to follow federal environmental laws when you're doing rehab. The biggest is where you see the permittees or land owners that are being negatively impacted, natural and cultural resources and archaeological and all those things. We needed to grow this program in that area. It's that third leg of the stool that we're trying to shore up here. but what would that program look like? And I think this is a really good way to hear from those folks that are affected on the ground the most. And then how could we design our grant program around that and then present that to you all for approval as we go forward before we start opening up the grants. And I think the Windmill Ranch in Sedona was a good test. But as you guys know, the land status around that worked on the Coconino National Forest. That's it, but you start throwing in others. So I think we gotta bring those folks on board. But then you have agencies like Game and Fish Department. You have county sheriff's offices that are out there seeing this every day. It could be a trail issue, it could be a natural resources issue. So it's a really big program, but we thought we should start from scratch and then see. And even the senator mentioned if there's some authorities that the board needs, he'd be willing to run legislation to give it to you. But I think it's a good way to start is to really kick off this working group and just hear from those that are on the ground.
Thank you, and Matt, just a question to you that the complaints that I were aware of had to do with a lot of the pollution, the air pollution, the dust, as well as trail maintenance, but the fact that the air was so dirty. In your groupings, in your discussion, will you have anyone that has that kind of scientific analysis of what mitigation can mean for dust control in those areas? Because to me, that's what the neighbors were really offended at, was just the fact that it ruined the quality of the air around them. So just curious if that's gonna be one of the priorities to examine, and if there's anyone who can actually advise you accordingly, if there's a measurement, a metric, I don't know, but I know that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chair, Member Larson. So as part of the proposed participants, I guess is kind of what we're calling them, we have 6 state contracted trail crews that have been vetted that basically state parks can select and pay directly to do maintenance, mitigation, any type of trail work. They are subject matter experts. They are able to help with dust mitigation. They are able to help with mitigation efforts, vandalism efforts, reroutes. There were a number of projects that you approved at the last round of grants that all impact the Sedona area. One of which being a reroute that's being done by one of those trail crews to route the trail away from the neighborhood. Another, there's a multitude of ones that are impacting, but we do have those folks listed as participants in this group to provide us that expertise of, hey, we can't do that as a trail crew, or we can do that, or the best mechanisms to get those types of work done, depending on the work that needs to be done and what's identified by this group as highest level priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Member Buchanan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments. It seems to me that, what we are trying to do is help shape behavior. We're not trying to stop outdoor recreation. We're not trying to stop use of OHVs. But if you watch a commercial from your favorite OHV company, whatever that is, they'll go unnamed here. You'll see pictures creating, rooster tails of dirt and things like that, which are not conducive to trail maintenance and certainly not good for the environment, these kinds of things. And so the advertisers are teaching behavior through their advertising that is inappropriate for all the things. It's inappropriate for the environment, it's inappropriate for safety. So again, we're trying to counter some of that through mandatory outdoor off-highway vehicle education for registration. I talked about this course. That's only going to scratch part of the itch. The other part is how do you affect some behavior? So I would recommend considering some sort of public service announcements out there for all that talk about safe and respectful off-highway vehicle use. That's one. Another one, I do believe that we can do some things to help control or shape behavior through signage. Let me just give you an example. Near where I live, there's a road, it's called Gardner Canyon Road. It comes off of Highway 83 between Sonoyta and I-10. Problem with that road is part of it is in Pima County and part of it is in Santa Cruz County. So you deal with two different sheriff's departments who largely don't go there. And there's a lot of off-highway vehicle use, dominantly coming out of Tucson. These people will drive up to 80 miles an hour on that road. I've talked to my own sheriff's department, can't we put a speed limit sign out there? Not that we're looking to catch somebody speeding, but if you have a sign that says the speed limit's 35 or 25 or whatever, that will help shape some behavior. And again, there was some sort of resistance. Well, we can cite them if they're operating at too fast a speed for unsafe conditions. Okay, but you're not really shaping behavior by doing that. And the other thing is, in order to cite them, then you have to be there. And so just what are the kinds of things that we can do to help shape behavior so that people aren't going excessively fast? And I think it's a mess, and we need to help. Most people, you know, when I've been in a ride-along with our game warden, and we stopped probably 20 off-highway vehicles, at least half had kids in them, and all but one were not wearing helmets. And so, and this wasn't about writing people a ticket. It was, look, let me help you understand what the law is, understand how you can get a helmet, you know, if you need it, but why this is important. We're not trying to harass you. We're trying to help protect your kids. That's why there's a law in this thing. So I think for the most part, if people really understand what right is, they're going to follow it. But anything we can do to help shape behavior is what's important. I fully support, you know, all these grants for sheriff departments. In the end, that's about enforcement. But you hope that enforcement is not really about citing people, it's about shaping behavior. So anyway, I'll get off the soapbox on philosophy here, but.
I believe in the citing policy. I believe that if you're DUI 3 times, you lose your license. And we should be doing the same thing to the inappropriate off-road vehicles operators. It's not right.
Mr. Chairman, one last thing too, and maybe adopting, I'm thinking of leave no trace, you know, that is a ethic that is commonly known mostly by hikers in terms of what it is, but there's no reason why it can't have transference to the motorized vehicle folks too, that leave no trace is environmental, it's the trail, it's all those things, and if you can certify people into that kind of philosophy of outdoor recreational management, sound to Jeff's comment, then is, so maybe having a campaign of that nature designed for the OHV might at least spread a word, because you know, leave no trace has been around for a lot of years and a lot of hikers disregard it, but the majority seem to actually appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, again, I go back to, if there are certain areas that are continually having the same problems, close them down. This area is closed for a month. Put an impact on it until appropriate behavior is observed and followed. This trail will be closed. Yeah, I don't know how to change behavior. It seems like punishment is the best way.
For the few.
Yeah.
Well, the few that
They get
cause the
caught,
problems.
they get caught,
Yeah.
yeah. The enforcement piece is obviously one of the difficult
Yeah.
elements along that line. Matt, do you have, with this working group being established, do we have a timeline? You've got some great objectives, but do we have a timeline?
We do. We do have a rough timeline. Looking to have the group meet initially in January. Having the working group evaluate a variety of metrics for awards in February. Hopefully in March, having the State Parks Board review any proposed metrics or scoring criteria for that group and how they'll evaluate. Looking at, good to continue or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think, you know, the timeline's gonna be the timeline. I think we go in thinking, we can lick this real quick, but this is, like you all mentioned, this is very sensitive. There's a lot of confounding issues. So, I mean, I think we're going in with, yes, we'd like to get this done, but we're not gonna rush it to a point where we're not hearing somebody or we're not thinking this thing through. So, you know, the timelines are always squishy. And that's a good thing, because I think it keeps us open to hearing. But yeah, Matt said, we would really like to kick this off, next month, real early next month or mid next month, and then see where it goes. But I think in the meantime, we'll update you on where this is going. But the next item, Matt mentioned it earlier, is, with the $100,000 cap, I think what to keep in mind is, and we've had this discussions with the senator and led staff, was, well, that's great if it's a landowner. What if it's an entire game management unit, or if it's a resource conservation district, or we're talking major, those are $1 million projects easily, just to do erosion control or rerouting roads or things like that. I want to make sure we have framework around that, because that's a lot of money, and we want to make sure that we're addressing what those issues are. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think for, based on what we saw at Windmill Ranch, 100,000 can go very, very quickly. And when you deal with that, or you're addressing that issue, other issues are continuing to go. So it's really a strategic approach of how we're going to tackle this, and but it's also making sure you all are comfortable approving those 7-figure, sort of grants. But I want to make sure that, so that's going to take some time. So our timeline is, we're going to meet, and we're just going to meet until I think we get to a point where we reach consensus on where to go, and then we can bring you guys something that has been vetted, and we've had such a broad reach of participation.
With respects to the OHV mitigation grants, now there's a dollar amount set for that, which is
100,000.
which isn't gonna go very far. And is that annually, or do we just have
Per
that with the?
grant. Per grant.
But the
per grant.
100,000, what I'm trying to understand, that is for Matt and team under your leadership to execute without coming back to us.
Right.
So
With the
you
information.
could do more than that.
Right.
But the way the current system is, you'd have to come to the board for
Yes.
approval. Okay.
Right.
Where I was going to is that by establishing a work group to come up with a strategy, are we delaying the deployment of potential projects?
No, sir, I think we're gonna still see issues come up. We wanna keep going, particularly with even individual ranchers like Windmill. I think if those pop up, absolutely. Notification to the board, this is what's come through, but when we start looking, if we're gonna look landscape level, I think that's where I wanna make sure that we've got some more sideboards on those big time grants, and make sure you're comfortable with it too. But yeah, we'll keep going, and we all know there's plenty of issues out there. But one of the things is really, not to belabor this, but it's really information about the grant program. We've been to the cattle growers meeting, talked to them about it. They didn't even know. So there's a lot of this is going to be education. But at the same time, I think one of the things we were dealing with, what we saw with Windmill, is we managed that grant for the permittee. Coordinated with the forest system, so not all permittees are gonna be able to manage or apply for a grant. So legally, what can we do? Can we step in, or can an NGO step in and do it for them? Is it the land management agency? So it's really, there's just a lot of tentacles on this potential of what these grants could look like. So I think if we could sort of put it into a decent sized box for you guys, I think it'd be beneficial.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just one more comment, and this is really for you and Sarah. What I recommend is, even if there is a temptation to prioritize landscape scale projects, just be careful that you don't ignore the little ones. Again, using my experience on the game and fish side with grants, we went through this process and we prioritized the landscape scale projects. It sounds great. It's both more efficient and more effective when you do it. You get more bang for the buck. But what we found is we're ignoring all these little $5,000, I need help digging out this water tank, which provides access for my cows and elk, or whatever the case may be. And in so doing, then we lost relationships with landowners, we lost access agreements, all kinds of things. So account Go for the big ones, but account for the little ones too. Don't ignore them. That's just my coaching back to you.
Yeah. Yeah,
All set.
it's good advice.
Any further conversation from the board? Ms. King, you good?
That's right, I heard.
Very good, so let's, that item is information only, so let's move to item 4. This does have possible action. The board will discuss and may take action to approve, modify the proposed changes to the grant administration delegated authority. Presenter Jeff Schmidt.
Chairman Sefton, members of the board, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today about a topic I know we're all extremely passionate about, board delegation authority. So specifically as it relates to our grant programs and processes. So before I get into this, just want to take a second and kind of explain why we're even doing this. First, I think it's been a little while since we've had a similar discussion, so I think it would be good to just make sure we are all on the same page. We're also always trying to streamline our processes, make them as efficient as possible. Ultimately, our goal is to improve and provide the highest level of customer service that we can to our sponsors. We also want to ensure that we're being respectful of the board's limited meeting time. So we're hoping to clarify and reaffirm the board's desired level of involvement in these processes and what you feel comfortable delegating to Bob. Any questions before I dive in? Bob or Sarah, anything to add before I get into this? Awesome. Pam, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So on this table, you'll see 3 columns. The first column basically identifies a series of common actions that we take related to our programs. That second column will show the board's current authority over these actions. And then that third column will show what we are proposing in terms of authority moving forward. My plan is just to kind of simply work through this table row by row. At the end, ask for a motion to approve or modify our recommendations. Obviously, we serve at the pleasure of the board, so we are happy to incorporate any suggested modifications to these proposals. Feel free to stop me if you have any questions while I work through this. So our first and probably one of our most common actions is providing project extensions up to 1 year. Currently, Bob has the authority to approve these requests. We aren't proposing any changes to this authority. Next action is the approval of time extensions beyond 1 year. If the members recall our last meeting, the board did approve an extension for the town of Camp Verde, who is requesting a second 1-year extension to complete development of the Camp Verde Sports Complex. We are proposing to transfer this authority to the executive director, but we also propose to submit a report to the board, really at whatever cadence the board desires, and outlining what projects we have extended beyond that 1-year extension. We're also happy to work with the board to include any additional information you would like to see in those reports. Our next action is adding or removing scope items. And with the caveat, there's actually no change in the actual overall award amount. It's pretty uncommon for a sponsor to request a scope decrease. We really do most often see additions to the scope, but again, we wanted to try and make sure this encompassed almost any action we would encounter. As most of you on the board are likely aware, these projects can take a considerable amount of time to work through the NEPA, the Section 106 review and approval process, depending on the grant that the program that's being awarded from. Costs, priorities internally often change. Recently we've seen entire administrations change within some of these organizations. So it's pretty common for priorities and the scopes of these projects to change. Costs sometimes lower than expected, which allows sponsors to do more work than was originally planned, but more frequently, as we all know, costs are significantly higher, limiting the amount of work a sponsor can complete with the awarded funds. In general, once a sponsor makes us aware that they intend to change the scope or they hope to change the scope, we basically have them pause their work while we work through the review and approval process for that application. Depending on when they reach out to us to make us aware, review and approval of these amendments can take several months, often leading to significant delays in actual implementation of the project. With that being the case, we're proposing to transfer this authority to the executive director and again, provide a report to the board at their desired cadence, basically outlining all of the requests that we've approved for changes in scope. Our next action, change in project sponsor. It's almost been 9 years, I think, that I've been with State Parks now. I can only remember one or two of these. I think one was approved not long ago, but yeah, it's very rare. So it is actually so rare, we're not actually proposing any changes to this authority because it's not something that often comes up. Another action that we do not recommend altering is requests for increases of funding. This is one of the actions we propose that continue to be reviewed by the appropriate advisory committees, either OFAG, ASCOT, and AORC, as well as the State Parks Board. So we're not proposing any changes to that process. Funding decrease, again, not something we see very often. It's kind of similar to the change in project sponsor. It's not one that occurs very frequently. We'll generally ask a sponsor just to simply close the project out and return those unused funds to whatever account those funds came from, which we'll discuss in a couple of minutes. Yeah, and I'll turn this over to Matt real briefly.
Yeah, part of my presentation a moment ago was looking at a delegation authority increase to allow Director Broscheid to approve up to $250,000 per mitigation grant submitted through our systems. That would also be like the others, like Jeff mentioned. You'd be informed as you have been on previous mitigation grants. It would just kind of follow that same suit. It's just increasing that threshold, that dollar threshold, to allow us to be more effective in making change on the ground.
And just to add to that, Matt, with some of these issues, they're causing negative effects to environmental, cultural resources. Basically, we would like the ability to streamline those projects and get that money on the ground to address those issues as quickly as possible. The last three, all related to closeouts. I'm not going to go too deep into these. Really, we're not proposing any major changes except to report to the board more consistently on projects that are closed out. Depending on the funding source, remaining balances for these projects are basically returned to that funding source. It's our understanding that at least for the recreational trails program, we have the authority to basically take that funding that was returned from a closed out project and then obligate that to a previously approved board project. So you will have already seen these projects, just a little bit of a shell game on our end to make sure that we're using all of the funding in each fiscal year. So none of that is lost. So really the last three are very similar. And again, we're just proposing that we do a better job of keeping the board informed as these projects close out, as we obligate these funds to other projects, and as funds are basically rolled over into, specifically for LWCF, our special reapportionment account that we can actually utilize the next fiscal year. So that funding, whatever is still left, will basically be used on the next board approved project. So I think that is pretty much all I have. So I'd be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
Excellent, thank you, Jeff. And as a Parks and Rec professional, I love being able to use the term shell game when talking finances. So without any questions from the board.
I have a kind of a comment, Mr. Chair. First of all, on all of these, I agree with all of them. I don't see any issue from my perspective on any of those changes or maintenance of authority. I've got a little concern about board informed. What does that mean? How, why, where, when? And I'm gonna say something that may be a little uncomfortable. But the way I look at it, we are part of a team. And we need to be part of the team. Sometimes we can leverage our advice and experience to help steer something in a certain direction. Sometimes we just need to be informed so that we can help mitigate conflict and these kinds of things. But I want to go back to earlier this year when when you, using authority you had already been granted by the board, made a decision to increase fees, entrance fees at parks. And we got informed, or at least I got informed the day before we were going to make a public announcement about it. And when I asked, I thought that was our authority. The answer was, well, actually, the State Parks Board already decided this. Yeah, but it must have been more than 5 years ago because it was before I was on the board. So what I wanted to say was, just because you can doesn't mean you should. If you want us to continue to be part of your team and help you with friction points, they're going to come up when people complain about increases in funding or, how come we're not doing this project or we're doing that one. How do you keep us informed, I think, is really important. And my suggestion, going back to you, whether the reports or whatever, it probably needs to be more than just what we get wrapped around our board meetings, which are scheduled 12 months a year, but we execute 8, 9 of them, something. We don't because we don't have enough agenda items. So I don't think it requires necessarily, additional meetings that we have to notice the public for and everything, but some kind of regular report or something to give us a chance to actually weigh in. Maybe before decisions are made, but certainly if we're gonna leverage our advice and experience, we need to do so in enough time to share that. But certainly if we're gonna help mitigate friction that's gonna come up because of a decision that you're making within your authority, I think we need to know about it ahead of time. So it's really, I'm good with all of that. I just like to see the staff somehow pull us in more to keep us on track instead of just our board meeting process.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, similarly to what Board Member Buchanan was talking about, with the whole idea of the executive director having this authority, would the action already be taken and then we would be informed? Or would the executive director say, this is what I'm going to do and let the board know? Just to understand kind of the process of what that information piece would be. And the reason I ask that is twofold. One, what happens if the person who this, or the organization that this money wants to appeal that, or they're not happy with that decision? Does that then rest with Bob, that he is able to negotiate or do whatever, or does that come based on state statutes back to the board because the board has that authority? I'm a management geek, so I'm just wanting to make sure that if the delegation of authority goes to you into your office, that there's also some sort of a policy escape that if the board needs to weigh in, the board should be able to weigh in. I know there's 40+ pages in the state statute related to all what we're supposed to do, and I don't know how much of this affects any of that at all. I haven't reviewed it to really understand if there is any impact with that, but it's more to protect you as well in case someone is not happy with what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I think 95.9% of these are coming from the applicant, are requests from the applicant.
Okay.
As far as any ones that could or I think are even remotely controversial, we'll bring to the board if
Okay.
that's what you'd like. It's always good to have top cover on these
Yeah.
things too. But as far as how you were informed is really, it's however you want. I would, if these are sort of the applicant is asking for any of these, I would I'd probably make the decision and inform you only because, not because I, love power or anything like that, but if we're gonna wait till the next board meeting,
Right.
then why are we even doing this? So if we can be responsive, because it'll take about 3 months to get this from request to onto the board through all of the committees and that informing. But I would say absolutely, the controversial ones, we will agenda it and I'll let you guys handle that hot potato. And I'll revert that delegate authority back to you. But yeah, I think most of these are really applicant driven, except for even those that are saying, they've been in place, we just went through some OHV. Your project has been sitting on the books for a long time, we're closing you out. Those could be controversial, but for the most part, it's the applicant going, yeah, we're not gonna spend the money, or we're not gonna meet it, so here's the money, end the application. But yeah, as far as information, we can write memos, we can put it in our grants every month that we're presenting to you, status updates, however you are comfortable, we can do it.
And then a follow-up to that, I know the grants are all from different sources, right? So this would affect all sources of grants across the board, whether it's OHV, land and water conservation, heritage, blah, blah, blah. This would be across the entire.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Member Buchanan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So here's my food for thought based on what you just said. On the controversial ones, what I would recommend consideration is call for a special virtual telephonic
Sure.
meeting.
You do that.
I know we can do that, but we shouldn't have to wait 3 months.
Right.
If we don't want to penalize people we don't want to penalize our own department if we can do this. And so I would recommend, again, wearing another hat, we do that periodically. I would recommend you consider that.
That's a good idea.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment on this, just Nina, who isn't here, she's actually at our Emerging Leaders program right now. Otherwise, she'd be here, and Jeff and Matt and the entire team. As she presented to you all in the last meeting, she's been working really hard to review and say, okay, what are we doing good? What can we do great? And this is one of those efforts of looking at it and coming back and saying, let's affirm what we're doing well, and let's propose and discuss opportunities to do even better. So I just want to give her leadership some credit, and Jeff and the team for bringing this forward.
Member Buchanan.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this changes in, how about that? I move to approve proposed changes to grant administration delegated authorities presented by the staff.
I will second that.
Second.
That is
Sarah.
motioned and
Sarah did it.
seconded by Member King. And with that, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously to make those changes. Congratulations, staff, and yes, thank you for that. And the issue of controversy. So, Mr. Executive Director,
Call you first thing. For sure.
we can take that into consideration.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Section E, future agenda items. Any from Member Buchanan?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. What particular part do you think I'm gonna talk about?
Yes.
Well, I do want to say, first of all, thanks to the entire department staff for your hard work in working with the Friends Group of the San Rafael Valley. They're up and running. They've made a huge difference already, cleaning up a lot of the ranch house, doing work in concert. I mentioned, I think the last meeting with the Arizona Antelope Foundation and Game and Fish on doing some things for the conservation area. Lots of great work. And they're continuing to get good work, and they're working very well with Athena. And I wanted to mention Nina, is that how you say her name? Not Nina? Okay, Nina's help and the department's help. As this group has reached out and tried to figure out, okay, how can we get some funding for some of this work that desperately is needed to be done to maintain this historic structure? So they are in the process of applying for a heritage grant. I don't have to recuse myself because I won't be on the board when the vote comes, but the team has been very, very helpful. That grant is needed actually to help do some emergency maintenance, but also figure out the scope of let's move forward in a smart way to maintain the blacksmith shop and, replace windows, all kinds of things. But the department has been great. I think that there is a plan for some of staff to visit out there on the 5th of January. Sarah, I know you were out there, Mark was out there a couple of years ago, you'd be amazed at the changes just based on what Sonovo Grease can do. So thanks for your help, thanks for your cooperation. Don't forget that place. It's a national treasure. That's really, and I know that we've got a meeting potentially in southeastern Arizona here this spring, Tubac. Consider a field trip out there as well. It's worth thinking about. Okay.
Thank you. Any other items for future agenda? All right, item F, Executive Director's Report on Current Events.
Good, well, I'll stall until Pam can flip the thing, she's getting me water, thank you, appreciate it. We just, real quickly, I know we've got some people who want to speak to the board, so I'll kind of keep this pretty quick, but we did our all-employee conference just a couple months ago. This is almost everybody getting together and celebrating, each other, award ceremonies, things. So we do this every other year. It's a little pricey, and it's also hard to pull everybody out of our parks because we just had maintained skeleton crews during those couple days. But anyway, it's a great time by all. Continue to build, morale and relationships, and particularly for people that are new to the agency. So it's a great way to really bond everybody to bond as an agency, and it was really well received up in Payson. That wasn't too bad, except for a little bit of rain we had, but everybody behaved themselves. Next. We also do, Sarah mentioned, and I know I mentioned to you all about Emerging Leaders Program. We're just started, where NINA is and many others is our 4th cohort. And so as they go through that leadership development training, then we release them back into the wild, and hopefully they do great work. Deputy Director and I sat down and went, well, we just don't want to push them out there. I think we need to kind of check in with them. And so what we did was we wrapped up a year, each region we went to, and we called them these fireside chats, where everybody went through that Emerging Leaders Program, as well as our leadership in Phoenix, went up and we talked about, their experience, what are they nervous about? Continuing really is really to have that one-on-one time around a huge campfire to talk about where we're going next. So we give them assignments to read and we quiz them on it. They would appreciate that. Bring your number 2 pencil, and so it's a really great way. I think the staff really enjoyed it, where we can all show up and talk to them about leadership and where to go and where we're going next time. And so it's we're going to continue that on again next year. But it was really great. Again, it's really pulling people out of the field, but we've been doing it after work hours. So, and again, everybody's behaved themselves around that campfire. We also have several holiday events that are coming up in motion right now. Fort Verde, Reardon Mansion, Roper Lake, Lake Havasu, Patagonia Lake, and Catalina State Parks are all doing holiday events. It is the season, so. But we're also do this shelter dog walking programs that we've done at Picacho Peak and Catalina. So these are dogs that are in shelters waiting, hopefully, to be adopted. And what we've done is open the parks up to let people, either handlers or somebody, take out the dogs and let them go out and enjoy the park. It is definitely not in rattlesnake weather, so they're safe that way. But what a cool program that is. Dogs who can get out and enjoy themselves, and then hopefully they make a connection with somebody, and somebody will adopt them right there on the spot. Sarah thought about it. She was going to take 6 of them. She thought better of that, but we're going to keep that going. That's a great program. I'd like to turn this over to Deputy Director Weber to talk about this one. This is really, really cool. She got to experience it firsthand.
Great, thank you, Director. Mr. Chair and the board. So I think at the beginning of the year, we informed you all that we had received a check from an estate for Oracle State Park. And we had an amazing opportunity to learn more about that donor. His name is James or Jimmy Michelotis. He's originally from the Chicago area, and he came to Arizona serving in the Army when he was stationed at Fort Huachuca. He eventually, later in his life, bought a property in Saddlebrook Ranch, which is near Oracle, and also recruited his brother to come out and live there, and they lived out there until he passed. And he visited Oracle State Park a few times, including with his brother Dan. He's one of 3 brothers. They're all very close. And he was very close with his family. He was a generous person in his life. He was also an entrepreneur and a businessman. And in his estate left the gift of $225,000. So, and you can go to the next slide. We invited the family after Thanksgiving. They were all meeting for Dan, the brother's birthday, his 90th birthday, and Thanksgiving in Oracle, in the Saddlebrook Ranch area near Oracle. We said, we'll come out to the park. We'd love to show you the space. Most of the family had not been to the park before. And this poem was shared by one of his relatives, and it was a poem written by Larry Krukroff, his business partner, about Jimmy. He laughed at absurdity, he fought cruelty, he sought beauty. He was the best of men, who now will feed his wild quail. And this was such a beautiful poem to share, because as you walk up to Oracle and to the Canali Ranch, you hear the quail. That's probably the first thing before that you hear. And it was so incredible that, there was so many themes that connected to his life, his values, and his family. We'll go to the next slide. Cinda, our park manager, did an incredible job giving a tour of the property, telling the story of the family that gifted the property, and also talking about the plans to utilize the funds that were donated for the future of the park, to allow more members of the public to be able to see more of the park, learn more about the history, and future generations to experience that. There were about 22 people there. It was very personal, I think, for everyone there, including myself. This is one of those days that goes, you'll remember well beyond job titles and meetings and calendar events, right? And if you go to the last slide, this is a picture of the family and the brother and his wife. And again, it was just a really cool opportunity. There were the story of the Canali Ranch, the family, their closeness of siblings, their journey, and as coming from the Midwest to Arizona, echoed in the lives of Jimmy and his brother, and now these generations. And they're really excited now to be a part of our story moving forward. We will keep in contact with them as we complete the work that these funds will allow us to do. And we're just so incredibly grateful to the Michelotis family and to Jimmy for his gift to our park.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, that's really, really neat. And I know the board's been bringing this up at meetings about philanthropic opportunities, and Sarah again is leading that charge to how we can keep going, because those ex-Army, they're loaded with money. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, just a comment, and working with Michelle, could you write an article and send it to Arizona Highways? I think this would be a perfect article. This is just exactly the kind of family orientation and everything that maybe they would be more than willing to publish.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. That's actually a great recommendation. Elizabeth on our team, who came with us along with Carlos, she took the initiative, has already written an article that we'll be submitting to the Saddlebrook that community. They have 2 newspapers. They're very active. But we will take that back, and also Saddlebrook is a great place. But we will also take that to Arizona Highways. I think that's a phenomenal recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
We got to go this week. Monday, the Governor Hobson and her team annually recognize, agencies or groups within these agencies about their efforts to achieve our priorities, essentially. And if you remember last year, we received probably the largest award, which was the Impact Award for what we're doing with the Unity Blaze efforts. And this year we were again nominated, and out of 215 submissions, we didn't get the big award, but we did get the Excellence in Government Award recognition for improving education. And this is what George and Catalina State Parks has started with our outreach program with wildlife and education, in particular, going and working with juvenile corrections, where we take animals into juvenile correction facilities and let the kids educate them, let them handle wildlife and stuff. And it was really with corrections allowing us to go in there. They were huge supporters and part of this award as well. And you'll see them, they're representative on the far right, as well as our three, with particularly Athena in a bright pink shirt. But those are the kids. We also go into classrooms too. So really cool program, and recognized by the governor's office this week. So we're really, really proud of that effort.
How did the kids do handling the wildlife in the picture?
Yeah, the rattlesnakes and stuff, they're a little, froggy about that. Yeah. But we're hoping to expand that and get some other animals and continue that program, and maybe into some other parks and stuff. So really, it's sort of a one-person show right now, but it's really, really been well received. You can see the governor's office recognized that. The next one is in front of you is our annual report. This is fresh off the press. We can get it to you digital, paper copies, whatever you would like, but it's really the wrap up of our year. And every year, our marketing team, working with everybody to compile that, has really turned, I think, into one of the better annual reports I've ever seen. And it's readable, and you're not going to fall asleep reading it, but it's got the most important information in there. So anyway, hand them out. I know you guys do. I give you guys boxes of them. You can hand them out to others. So a couple last things. Here's our parks not only doing holiday events, but we're also working with local food banks on several food drives. Jerome, Kartchner Caverns, Lost Dutchman, and Slide Rock are all got ongoing efforts right now to hopefully shore up the food banks, and you all know they usually run real short about this time, so we're trying to do our part to help. And last but not least, one of the I know I notified you all via email, but we made a significant new hire in our agency. We which, with Linda Colwell's retirement, she's going to ride off into the sunset, well deserved. We decided to move that position into a chief information officer level in the executive, and David Gilbert is right there. Stand up, David. Say hi to everybody.
Thank you, buddy.
So he's been engaged in a lot of things we're doing, but he's still we stole him from Health Services, and he's been a DOA. He's a long military career. We're really, really thrilled to have him and glad he could be here. He's going to be here at the party today. But I ran into his director down at that awards ceremony, and she was kind of giving me the stink eye, but said, good luck through gritted teeth. But we're really glad to have a big fisherman, big outdoors person. We're really looking forward to starting next week. Is right your first day?
Yes, sir.
Monday?
22nd.
So we got a lot to do.
And as a military guy, comes loaded with money. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
He's got tons of money too. But anyway, I wanted you all to meet him. He's staying for the party. He brought tons of food, I hear. And so yeah, great guy. A lot of candidates. We really selected the best, I think, and we're really looking forward to him. So you'll probably see him. He'll probably be presenting. We've got an RFP going out next year
Thank you.
Looking ahead, we're gonna be really slamming, this will be my last one, Chair, is our first day hikes. As you guys know, January 1st. This is a nationwide effort that the first day of the new year, get out and hike and start off the new year right. And get some exercise, see some nature, and do all of those things. But we're doing, as always, a really big splash for getting the word out and opening the parks up. Hopefully we'll see, it's always been a real success, and nationwide it's growing every year, more and more participants. So hopefully if you can, you're all invited, come on out and hike that first day. We'll need it after the holidays, I'm sure. So anyway, I think that's it, right? Okay.
There was a big news story last night too on the first day hikes.
Oh, good. Yeah, so we really try to make a splash for that. Lots of partners too, counties, cities are all engaged in that too. So it's not really encouraging them to just our parks, but just to go outside. When they come to our parks though, we count them, and then we can see, are we going up or are we going down? But hopefully it'll be a big year again this year, so.
Mr. Director, are you planning the temperature to be in the 90s?
Yes, it'll be 77 degrees.
77. Mr. Vice Chair.
I just wanted to also echo the excellence of this report. You know, I teach management at ASU, and having these kinds of reports to give to our students, because oftentimes annual reports, you get lost in the statistics, you kind of get lost in all the charts, and you really don't pay attention. This is visual, from a visual point of view, it's phenomenal. So Michelle, thank you for capturing the spirit as well as some of the very notable information with this. But yes, I would need to have, for this class, 25, so just to let you know.
Thanks, David.
And to as well want to echo, you talked about the visual presentation, but also the story.
Yeah.
And just as the story with the donor, and right, and that's the thing that we can't lose sight of, the stories that are tied to our places and the programs and the people, the investment in people that we make. So, any other questions or comments on the Executive Director's report? All right. Next item is current events from the board members. Any comments from current events? Board members? I know this, yes.
I just acknowledge the park rangers who helped for the first time to decorate for the holidays at the Yarnell Memorial, Granite Mountain Memorial Park area. It was great.
Great, and this being a pretty significant event for Member Buchanan.
Mm-hmm.
This will be
My last meeting.
your last
It's
meeting.
been an honor to serve with you all.
Wow.
You guys say a word or more, or was that enough?
No, I think that was enough.
Excellent. Next item H, call to the public, and we do have one speaker request form from Yolanda Bejarano with the topic of AZ State Parks bidding and transparency. Yolanda,
Yes.
you have up to 5 minutes to make a presentation. This being a non-agenda item, we cannot have any engagement with respect to that, but we're certainly here to hear you.
Understood. Thank you so much, Chairman Sefton and members of the board. And thank you for everything you do to keep our parks beautiful. I know this is a really important responsibility, and we thank you for that. My name is Yolanda Bejarano. I'm the Political Organizing Director for Worker Power. Worker Power is a nonprofit organization focused on economic justice, strategic policy interventions, and voter engagement. We've distributed to you a report about Aramark's performance at Patagonia Lakes and Kartchner Caverns and the need for greater transparency in the bidding process for a concessionaire at these two locations. Kartchner Caverns and Patagonia Lakes State Parks are the 9th and 4th most visited parks out of the 30 parks, and yet their revenues diminished between fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024. Aramark has underperformed its projections from its 2015 bids, consistently being short by at least $414,260 of the firm's revenue projections at Kartchner Caverns from 2018 to August 2024, and short by at least $315,955 at Patagonia Lakes from 2022 to 2024. Aramark's current 10-year contracts with ASPB at Patagonia Lake State Park and Kartchner Caverns State Park expire on January 31st, 2026 and March 31st, 2026 respectively. The request for proposal for Patagonia was released on November 26, 2025, with a deadline of December 24th, 2025 for final submissions. Is it possible to receive responses from a range of qualified bidders with such a short timeline? We ask that the ASPT initiate the RFP for the Kartchner Caverns contract expiring on March 31st, 2026 as soon as possible to address some of these concerns. We also note that the $10,000 franchise fee listed in the current 2025 RFP is the same $10,000 franchise fee as the RFP from 2015. Is it not reasonable that after a decade of operating, the franchise fee would increase? We urge the ASPB evaluation team, stakeholders, and leadership to consider this report as it reviews concessionaires' bids and to seek out qualified bidders to ensure that there is competition for the upcoming lucrative contracts that support the state's $11.7 billion plus outdoor recreation industry. Our state parks are dependent on revenue from visitors. We want this and future generations of residents and tourists to enjoy the natural beauty and history that Arizona has to offer. Please, I urge you to take the time to find a concessionaire that will best serve our state parks. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Are we allowed to ask questions about a non-agenda item?
We are not able to engage.
All right, I didn't think so.
If there's a question to the director, you may. However. Okay. Future meeting dates are outlined here, and as mentioned earlier, the objective is to get down in April to Tubac and then up to Rock and River in September. So to be able to get out through our wonderful state. And with that, item J is adjournment. We shall adjourn.
Thank you.